This call is now being
This
recorded.
is Global Tel-Link. You have a prepaid call from
Ricky Black.
an inmate at the Centinela State Prison, Centinela, California. This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded. You have a prepaid call. You will not be charged for this call. To accept this call, say or dial 5 now. Thank you for using Global Tel-Link.
So in our previous conversation, you mentioned that you were committed to CYA. I believe the year was 1987.
Yes.
What facility? What facility was the first facility you went to once you got to YA?
So, being from Bakersfield, which is a Central Valley, I was sent to the Northern Reception Center called NRCC, and I stayed there for a couple of months. And from there, after the reception center, I was sent to Paso Robles down in San Luis Obispo.
Was Paso Robles where they had the GMTD?
Say that again?
When they were disciplining the wards, or maybe it wasn't happening during this time where there were when there would be a riot between the wards, and the staff would take them into the gym and put them on their knees for hours for days at a time, and if they would pee or defecate on themselves, they would beat them or handcuff them in a certain way where they couldn't move.
Yeah, that still occurred. That was occurring while I was there. It happened several times. One of the things when riots would happen in the dorms and the youth authorities, and the security would come in. They would fire their tear gas and their block guns, open the riot gates, come in, take control of all of us places in cuffs, plastic cuffs and metal cuffs, and they would take us to the gym and put you on your knees and separate all of us from one another. And then once the violence, was resolved, I guess, some of us would go to AdSafe, which was Cambridge, and some of us would be taken back to the dorms, placed on our bunks, and then handcuffed to our beds. And we would stay like that until they were ready to take us to the bathroom or let us go back to school and resume program.
And I think I got a little ahead of myself. So let's take you back to your first day in YA. Do you remember what that was like? Did you have the same type of feelings as you did the first time going to juvenile hall, or were you a little bit more hardened, or it didn't affect you as much?
Yeah, it was still intimidating. My two brothers had already been to the youth authorities prior to me, so I already had like a heads up on how YA was, and so it was almost like I knew what was coming before it came, because my brothers had already told me. And I think the first week I was in the youth authorities in NRCC, I remember I was laying on my bed and I was looking out the window, and lunchtime came, and what would happen was other kids would bring the lunches, and the staff would open up the door and they would hand you your lunch. And my first week there, I remember this African American from Oakland, California, had ran into my cell and started a fight with me. And of course, we're fighting, and the staff run to our cell and spray us up and things like that. I didn't have a lot of time to react or to be afraid in that moment. But after that, I became more aware of my door opening and why this man attacked me. And the reason he attacked me because I was a young white kid. And this was how YA was. Other kids wanted to know if you were tough, if you were going to defend yourself, if you were going to fight back. And a lot of times the older kids would send younger kids to fight younger kids just to see how you were going to respond to it. So it was intimidating. It was something unfamiliar to me because I didn't get any fights in juvenile hall. A lot of my friends from the neighborhood were in juvenile hall with me, also in YA. So, and I knew them. So I didn't experience like a lot of turmoil like a lot of other kids did, because a lot of my neighborhood friends were already there in the youth authorities.
And getting into fights at this time, were they adding on extra time to your sentence, or it didn't affect your 18 months that you went in with?
Yeah, of course. I don't remember how much extra time that you get because it was a long time ago. But because I had 18 months, I could do good time and get out before my time was up, or by fighting and getting write-ups and things like that, they max your time out, and that's eventually what happened to me. I wound up doing the whole 18 months.
And that was due to fights, strictly fights, right?
Yeah, getting write-ups, being uncooperative with staff, or things like that. We'd get write-ups, and you don't even, as a kid, you don't even pay attention to the time that you're doing. It's almost like time doesn't have any space in your mind. You're not even thinking about it. You're just living from moment to moment. So as a kid, getting 18 months, I assumed that I was going to do 18 months. But what I realize now, looking back, is with good behavior, you can get out earlier. But that wasn't something that I could have done at that young age. Things were just too tense. Different gangs there in the youth authorities. Everything was broken up along racial lines, and teenagers being teenagers, there was always something happening. So I was only worried about the moment and not how much time that I was doing or how much time that I was losing.
And do you recall the core friends or the people you were hanging around at that time with in YA?
Yeah, I do. Because I was white, I was considered white by all the other kids. I hung out with a majority of the white kids that were there. And we had our own area. Everybody had their own softbacks and own area in the youth authorities that you hung out on. And I was considered white, and that's who I hung out with.
So you said that you were considered white by the others. What did you consider yourself? Or what did you identify
I was raised.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
I was raised Native American, Cherokee Indian, but I'm also Irish. And for some reason, kids, even though I'm dark complected, kids considered me white. And I'm assuming they considered me white because there wasn't many Native Americans in the youth authorities at that time. And so you either was Hispanic or you were African American or you were white. So, and I don't remember only one other guy there that was Native American, and he ran with the whites too. So that's who I identified with at that time. But in fact, I was raised Native American.
And what does that do to you? You consider yourself, or you identify more with your Native American side, and you're in this facility, and everybody considers you white. What does something like that do to you mentally?
I was too young to understand it, to wrap my thoughts around it, and I never considered nationality or my race ever. I mean, I was raised Native American by my father, and going to juvenile hall and YA and having kids identifying me as being white was like new to me. I didn't even know how to act on that. The only thing that I knew was these guys were willing to accept me, and these other guys didn't. And I was safer with the guys accepting me than I was with anybody else who only wanted to take advantage of me. So for me, it was all about being accepted. And if these guys were willing to accept me at that time, I felt good about that.
And during these 18 months, did you have any support from your family? Was anybody coming to visit you? Were you allowed to see your brothers? What kind of support, what did support look like for you during this time?
I believe both of my parents were incarcerated, and I was on my own. My other brothers were in the youth authorities too. They were in different youth authorities than me because they were older than me. But the only one who I had supporting me was my girlfriend, and she was too young to come up to visit me by herself, as we were only teenagers. But that was the only support that I had at the time.
Thank you for answering that. So after your 18 months are up, do you get paroled?
I did. I wound up going to board, spoke to a commissioner, and he granted me parole, and he sent me to a halfway house for youngsters. So I went to another halfway house where guys from the youth authorities had went to in my old neighborhood. And when I got there, I was 18 years old. I didn't want to follow the rules. The people at the house that I was living with had locks on the refrigerator. I couldn't eat when I wanted to eat. The lady there took me to a thrifty store to buy me clothes for school. Or not school, excuse me, for work and everyday wear. And I didn't want nothing to do with the clothes that she bought me because they came from thrifties. And I remember as a kid stealing out of that store. And when she took me there to go shop for clothes for everyday wear, I was like, I was 18. I was too proud to wear anything she bought me, and I couldn't believe that the money that she was getting for me, that's how she chose to spend it on me, was with clothes from thrifties. So I stayed there for about 6 days, and I wound up taking off and meeting up with friends of mine and my girlfriend, and violated my parole, my youth authority parole, and left that house and kind of went my own way.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
That was a short amount of time, right? That you violated it?
6 days.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And it was just the treatment. There was no respect, from the people who ran the house. And when I couldn't go eat when I wanted to eat out of the refrigerator, and they were getting money from the state for me, I didn't understand that. And then all the house rules that they had, I thought, hey, I'm 18 years old. I'm an adult now. I can live life on my terms. So 6 days was all that I could handle. And I wound up leaving.
And when you were going back to when you were in the youth authority, was that like a common theme there, or a common occurrence where a ward would get released and they would be back within the next few days?
Back into the youth authorities?
Yeah. Did you see a lot of people, paroling, and then a few days later they would be back in the same place that they had just left?
I've seen other kids leave and come back, but I didn't spend a lot of time in YA because once I turned 18, I wound up paroling. But so I didn't get to experience a lot of that. But I did see a few kids.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
So once you violated, you went back to YA. How long was your stay this time?
No, in fact, I stayed out. I was on the run for about a year, and I wound up getting arrested for a new crime, for burglary. I burglarized someone's home, so they put me in the county jail. And because I was an adult, I wound up being sentenced as an adult and got my first prison sentence.
And this was at age 18, 19?
At 18 years old.
And how did state prison how was it different than YA? Or were they similar?
Yeah,